Lena Blake had always dreamed of being on TV. What she never expected was for that dream to become her entire reality. At 16, she was already an internationally recognized actress, the star of a wildly successful teen drama called Edge of Tomorrow. The show's millions of fans adored her portrayal of Cassie, a fearless, intelligent young woman navigating a post-apocalyptic world. But what they didn't know was that the fearless character Lena played was nothing like who she was off-screen. In real life, Lena was anything but fearless. She was bold when the cameras were rolling, but behind the scenes, she had to navigate the pressures of fame, the expectations of others, and the constant public scrutiny that came with being a teen idol. With all eyes on her, Lena learned quickly that the world wasn't as kind as the scripts she read. But she had a secret weapon: her ability to control her own narrative. No one, not even her managers or the studio executives, could truly tell her what to do. She was more than just a pretty face. She was a force to be reckoned with. Lena's motto was simple: I do what I want. Lena's closest friends were just as dynamic as she was. Maddie Brooks, 17, was Lena's best friend since childhood. She wasn't in the entertainment business, but that was what made her a grounding force for Lena. Maddie had an easygoing nature, a quick wit, and the kind of confidence that only came from being unaffected by the world around her. Maddie was the one who helped Lena stay grounded, even when things started to spiral out of control. Then there was Jackson Hale, 19, an up-and-coming musician, who was quickly becoming the heartthrob of the moment. He was Lena's on-screen love interest, but off-screen, they had a much more complicated relationship. They shared an undeniable chemistry, but Jackson had his own ambitions and a history that Lena was starting to uncover. Jackson wasn't as famous as Lena, but he was quickly catching up. They'd shared a few secret moments that could have led to something more, but neither was sure whether they were just caught up in the rush of fame or if there was something deeper there. And finally, there was Bryce Coleman, 22, Lena's manager, who had been with her since she was 12. He was the one who made sure Lena never went too far off the rails, always keeping her on the schedule. Bryce was ambitious and sharp, always pushing for bigger deals and more media coverage. He saw Lena not only as a talent but as a brand own that could be leveraged for years to come. The constant balancing act between Lena's desire for personal freedom and the demands of the business was getting harder to juggle. The public adored her for her rebellious spirit, but would they still love her if she chose to break away from the very thing that made her famous? The first crack in Lena's picture-perfect life came during a photo shoot. It was for a major magazine spread, something her team had been pushing for months. The moment the camera clicked, Lena felt the weight of the spotlight pressing down on her, a pressure she hadn't noticed before. She wasn't just posing for a camera, she was performing for an audience that wanted to see more of the wild child they had grown to love. The stylist adjusted her outfit, a tight black leather jacket and ripped jeans, trying to make her look edgy and rebellious. But all Lena could think about was how she felt like a puppet on a string, controlled by everyone around her. The whole thing felt wrong. "I'm done," she said suddenly, standing up and walking off set. Bryce was quick to follow her. "Lena, we can't afford this right now. We have a brand to maintain, a reputation to uphold." "I don't care about the brand," Lena snapped. "I care about doing what I want. This isn't me anymore." Bryce's face hardened. "You're not just Lena Blake the person, you're Lena Blake the star. People expect you to be a role model, to be everything they want you to be." "No, they expect me to be Cassie," she shot back. "I'm not Cassie. I'm Lena Blake, and I'm tired of living up to other people's expectations." Rebellion. The following days were filled with tension. Lena stopped showing up to rehearsals on time, her behavior becoming increasingly erratic. She would spend hours in her room, writing in her journal or chatting with Maddie, who was the only person who truly understood her. "You know you're going to have to face the consequences of this," Maddie warned one night as they sat on Lena's bed, scrolling through social media. "I don't care," Lena said, her voice firm. "I've been living my life for other people for so long, it's time I started living it for me." The media caught wind of Lena's behavior, and the headlines began to change from praise to criticism. Articles started to pop up with titles like "The Fall of Lena Blake" and "Is Lena Blake Throwing Away Her Career?" But instead of retreating, Lena leaned into her rebellion. She started posting photos of herself on social media, wearing whatever she wanted and saying whatever was on her mind. She became the voice of the disillusioned, the girl who refused to be confined by the mold that fame had put her in. It wasn't long before the studio stepped in. Bryce called Lena into his office, his face grim. "Lena," he said, his tone uncharacteristically serious, "you're pushing everyone too far. The network is threatening to pull the plug on Edge of Tomorrow. If you don't get it together, we're going to have to let you go." Lena's heart raced. "You can't just replace me. People love Cassie." "They love Cassie, but they love you too," Bryce said, his voice softening. But you can't keep doing this. You need to decide. Either you go back to being the Lena everyone expects, or you lose it all. Lena sat there for a long moment, staring at Bryce. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. She could go back to the show, back to the safety of the role that made her famous, or she could continue down this unpredictable path and risk everything. But in that moment, Lena realized that the world she was living in wasn't hers, it was everyone else's. It was time to take back control. The next day, Lena called a press conference. Bryce and the studio were furious, but there was no stopping her. When she stepped up to the podium, cameras flashed and the world waited for her to speak. "Everyone's been asking me what's going on," she began. "So here it is. I'm done pretending. I'm done being who everyone else wants me to be. I've spent years being Cassie, but I'm Lena Blake, and I'm going to do things my way. I'm not quitting acting, but I'm going to make sure that whatever I do next, it's because I want to do it, not because it's what anyone expects." The room fell silent, and for the first time in months, Lena felt free. Lena's decision caused a ripple in the industry, but it also gave her a sense of liberation. The next few months were challenging. Her fan base shifted. Some people loved her new attitude, while others were critical. But she didn't care. She worked on new projects that excited her, ones that felt more true to who she was. She started her own production company, where she had the freedom to create content that was meaningful to her. She even collaborated with Jackson on a music video, exploring her creative side beyond acting. And through it all, Maddie remained by her side, supporting her every step of the way. One thing was certain. Lena Blake had done it her way, and she was never going back. Epilogue. Lena stood on the rooftop of her new apartment, looking out over the city. The wind blew through her hair, and for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. The world was still watching, but now, she was the one in control. "I do what I want," she whispered to herself with a smile. "And that's all that matters."